Brent, after hiding your bipolar disorder for 30 years of coaching, why did you decide to make it public?
Well, I had for many years been watching what was going on with the media and newspaper articles and anything I could find. And I just had come to a point that, I needed to do something to try to battle the stigma. And then when I finally told my son after he had graduated from high school and he had the reaction that he had, that I might harm his mom, that cemented it for me that when my career when it came to an end, I'm going to speak publicly about this because the stigma had creeped into my own home, and so that's when I knew, okay, this is something we just can't let keep growing because that's what it's going to do if we don't try to battle it in some way and help people understand more. Ivan, it's more about education than people not caring, is what I personally believe.
What was the hardest thing about coaching with bipolar disorder and not making it public?
Well, I just think, I was constantly, when you have late games and you fly, you get back in at 5 in the morning, and then you got to be in the office early and you lose the sleep. And so it was those times when I was, battling, being on the edge of some anxiety or even some mania to try to keep my composure. So there was a lot of, I did a lot of exercises where I just breathe or get into a room by myself, and calm myself down. I just learned how to be mindful about it. But I think the hardest part for me personally was when I would hear stories of student athletes that were having issues and I kept quiet, especially in a staff meeting or something. And I think that was the hardest part because I just felt like I was abandoning someone that I could help, maybe help, and was not able to. So from a coaching standpoint, that was probably the toughest, was just hearing stories about, players on the team or maybe just somebody at the university.
And yet you explained that you felt a kinship to those players that had either learning challenges or some other challenges, such as perhaps mental illness, that you could relate to them better.
I really could because, especially with kids with learning disabilities, they're so hesitant about going and getting help on campus because of the stigma there. I had a young man who didn't want to walk into the building on campus at both Tulsa and at Arizona State because it was right in the middle of campus and people knew why they were going in there. And so I just had to, I tried to explain to him how I personally felt is, hey, you were born this way. You did nothing to cause this or bring this on yourself, and you have nothing to be ashamed of. And so it was, I think, my sincerity probably for them listening to me that I convinced them to go ahead and go in there and it's going to be all right. And, I even probably coached them up on, hey, go at a time when campus is not busy, where if you're worried about people seeing you, go sometime where you can avoid being detected, which is what I'd been doing for 30 years, picking up my meds and not going to psychiatrist offices that were across the street from alumni that I knew, and all the things that I did to keep myself from being detected for 30 years.
Now that you've seen the reaction to making your condition public, have you reconsidered the way that you hid in plain sight, or as you put it, hid in tall grass for 30 years?
I know that now that my story could have probably definitely helped other people, and I think you always have regrets, but it is what it is for me, Ivan, and I hope that I can make a lot of progress very quickly with this. I know that I'm getting a really good reaction when I tell my story to people and they realize, you know, how that can just be a chemical imbalance that makes you act so bizarre and say bizarre things that, certainly with people that know me, they realize that, hey, this is something that anybody could be dealing with. And as I've told you, there are millions of people like me out there. They're in the tall grass too.
Brent, what do you want readers and viewers of this video about your story? What do you want them to come away with?
Well, I think that, well, I hope, I should say I hope, I shouldn't say I think. I hope that they will realize that I am really no different than all these people out there. And I'm really fortunate, Ivan, even though people look at me kind of funny when I say I have bipolar disorder, but I'm fortunate. But I'm fortunate because the meds work for me. And I was able to do this because of my DNA that allowed the meds to help me deal with this issue. There are a lot of people out there right now that are doing this, trying to find the right meds, or even meds don't work for them. And so I hope I can create empathy for the mental illness movement. Certainly with what we're dealing with now, you see a lot of talk about mental illness with what's happened with the pandemic. And hopefully with this, we can tie that together and not lose a little momentum that we have for people reaching out and trying to get help, or also for people to connect to somebody and say, hey, there's somebody else like me out there.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.